Hey everybody, welcome in to FFU. We are finally recapping the last day of the draft. It's Sunday. We got a little bit of free time, so we figured we might as well jump in rounds 4 through 7. Myself, you all know Aaron St.Denis, and we're gonna talk about it. So, how you doing, Aaron?
Not too bad. It's nice to finally actually get to do this. We've been planning to do this for like 3 days, but not too bad. 1 sec. Nice to finally, because I'm not. Can you hear the echo in the background? I'm not on my normal setup because my kid's still post-op here after his surgery. So I'm in the backup room here, and apparently I didn't have YouTube muted, and I was listening to myself. So we're finally getting around to it. I've spent the better part of my weekend as a nurse to a 9-year-old taking care of him, but we're going to try and get through this. It's really interesting. Someone asked me earlier, one of my buddies messaged me and said, "Oh, I've been looking and I think I'm going to get this, and this out of my first 3 picks or whatever." And I'm going, I have no idea, dude. This just happened. I'm like, I still have time to process this. And like, I got to go through. Like, I don't just, the draft doesn't happen and my rankings don't magically update themselves. I need to go in and do projections and like actually, program into my brain where half of these rookies landed. So I'm still going through the motions here. We're early on in the process. How about you?
Yeah, we had one league that wanted to jump on it last night, and I was like, all right, let's pump the brakes. So earlier this morning, they kicked it off, and of course, the 101 guy was like slept in, so we had a bit of a wait, but we're like midway through the second, and yeah, ADP hasn't updated on Sleeper, so you can kind of see a little bit of a discount with certain players, guys that are falling, guys that are high up. Like I noticed particularly Ricky Pearsall is like way down the list on Sleeper. And he's going a lot earlier than ADP. So just if you're drafting right now, like watch your ADP because it's all over the place.
You know why they haven't adjusted ADP? Because they were too busy adding IDP rookies to the board.
Did they finally add them?
Yep. I can't confirm. I haven't seen it, but Mace posted earlier, and that'll be great. I can't wait to actually do a mock draft with IDP rookies. I suppose I should double check that now that I've spoken it, but I'm pretty sure they did. So
that'll be nice. I like that. So let's all right, let's jump into round 4. We'll kind of talk about it. The first guy basically off the board is Ja'Tavion Sanders, followed by Troy Franklin. So they get an impact tight end that people like and an impact wide receiver. For me particularly, like I think Franklin has the better path because I just don't trust the Denver skill position players. I'm not a Marvin Mims guy, so I think he could step in and kind of fill a role for them really well. I think if we're targeting a late guys draft, he's going to be the guy with the best profile. So him and Sanders is interesting. Like he goes to Carolina, they don't have much. I mean, they drafted the wide receiver, they still have DJ, but outside of that, it's pretty wide open for him. So between these two guys, I know we're talking off screen. Like you clearly like Troy Franklin. Where do you think Troy Franklin's going to end up for you if you were kind of ballparking rankings off the top of your head?
Oh, actually, I kind of like both of these. Sanders fell further than I thought he would. I didn't think he was all that great, but this landing spot's pretty good. I was looking through, like I said, I haven't programmed a lot of this into my brain, so I'm kind of reading off a cheat sheet here. Ooh, and the IDP rookies are in. But like I was looking, and there were 1 or 2 teams where I looked and I said, holy shit, this offense really loaded up. Like the Panthers and the Commanders, it's like every round, it's like, oh, another offensive piece. So I think this Panthers offense is going to be really nice. I think Sanders is still just a stash for dynasty leagues or, someone to keep your eye on. I don't really want to own him as my tight end 1. Yeah, Troy Franklin is a last round of my draft home run swing. He could absolutely be nothing, or he could win this job from Sutton if they don't flat out trade him, and he could be the wide receiver 1 in Denver with his old quarterback. So I love that. That's going to be like that. That's just cheap right there. It's free. It's a free shot at a huge upside. Actually, I'm looking at my sheet here. The next guy off the board is another guy who I also like the landing spot. Theo Johnson, tight end, goes to the Giants. I'm operating under the assumption that Darren Waller is or is going to retire, so I really like that. So the first 3 guys to come off the board on day 3, I liked all 3 of them. What do you think?
Yeah, the word is I know I said this earlier, but I've actually gotten confirmation. Like I've seen it posted on social media that Darren Waller is retiring. So that's big news for Theo Johnson. He can step in and be the guy, right? So that's really good news. I don't think he has a very good profile. He's just a freak athlete. So if you want to take a freak athlete into an offense that still needs position players, I know they have neighbors. But outside of that wide receiver room is still pretty barren, right? So they bring in Theo Johnson. If he's anything, he'll get a chance right away. And then The next guy off the board is Javon Baker. And I think he's really interesting because people are taking him. I've seen a bunch of polls where he's going above Jalen Polk, the guy who went much earlier in the draft. So where do you kind of stand on Baker with the Patriots now that he has a decent quarterback? And I know like some people like Drake May, but he has a path. The way I look at him is he's buried at the X role behind Bourne in year one. So I think it's going to be really hard for him to get on the field right away. So I'm a little bit more worried about him personally. Where do you stand on Baker?
I don't think I'm going to have – I'm going to have more shares of Baker, I think, than Polk. I think it's just as likely that either one of them becomes the one this year for New England. So give me the guy who's going to be far cheaper out of it. I don't know. I was never all that high on Polk. I liked McMillan more out of the Washington offense. Mm-hmm. So yep. I'm not really going to pay the farm here to get him. So just give me the cheaper guy, and I prefer Baker. I don't know if either of them has upside in what isn't a great offense. Even if it's better, it's a rookie quarterback that we don't know if he's going to be any good. So I think it's a decent sleeper. It's not someone I'm losing my mind to acquire shares of, but it's someone where I'm going to have a share here and there just out of, just to diversify and hope that maybe if he's the guy who hits, I have a share here and there.
Yeah,
I won't have him in redraft anywhere, but Dynasty is worth a shot.
I think he's a guy you can target in the third round. I'm looking at a poll right now. Dynasty Zoltan has it. It has basically 2,000 votes, and Baker is the favorite over Polk. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we'll see how this ADP shakes out. If people are actually preferring Baker straight up over Polk, and that just seems interesting because
I don't think I do that. I think I take Baker at cost, but I don't want Baker straight up.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how this one draft I'm doing right now. Neither one of the guys has gone, but we're kind of in the mid-second. So we're going to start seeing one of those guys go. It's a lot of Washington guys, so it wouldn't shock me to see Polk go above him. But overall, I'm curious to see where they land because, if they're remotely close in cost, I much prefer Jalen Polk. I have him as a late second, so I have him at 18. I have Baker at – where is he? He's my number pick 30. So I'm definitely a lot lower on Baker. I just don't think he has role in year one. So that's my whole issue with him. But if they're both a lot cheaper, then I'm on board with that. All right, let's go down and see who the next guy is. And then another guy with an interesting profile lands in Baltimore. It's Tez Walker. Do you have any interest in Tez Walker? Because it's another open wide receiver room, even though it is Lamar Jackson. They're not going to throw a lot. Is there anything there for you to chase?
I think as I look through this, Day 3 is just full of interesting, intriguing dart throws because I liked a lot of the Day 3 landing spots better than I liked the early round landing spots. And that's why you get these late Day 3 guys who hit. I don't hate it. Do I think he's better than Zay Flowers? No, but I think he plays a different game. If you told me he was the X and Zay Flowers was the slot receiver, I don't really think that suits Lamar's game. But if you told me if you told me he was fantasy relevant at the end of the year, I wouldn't fight you on that. I think he has a pathway to being the breakout guy. So he's definitely not someone where I'm going to be targeting him. He's kind of like Baker. I'll have a few shots of him here and there just in case he's the guy who hits, but I'm not actively avoiding him. He's definitely not someone who, there was a couple of guys as I work through this, there's going to be a few who are they're dead to me now, but he won't be one of them. He's not a prime target for me. I like Troy Franklin far more, but I find that Baltimore landing spot interesting. How about you?
Yeah, I think there's a path for him. It all depends on what Rashad Bateman does and how he works that offense, if he's actually healthy, right? Because if Rashad Bateman's healthy, they're kind of going to be doing the same thing in that offense. Like we talked about, Zay Flowers going to be right underneath the intermediate doing that stuff. Bateman's been kind of playing the deep role. I expect Tez Walker to play more of a deep role in that offense, so we'll see if he can play the X. I don't really know he's fully capable of doing it, but, there's a pathway for him. So, I think we talk about guys in the third and maybe in, the fourth round with Tez Walker because, I don't think a lot of people are going to be too hyped about the Baltimore landing spot. In that range of pick, I'm sure. You could take a dart on him. With these two tight ends that went, with Eric All going to Cincinnati and then A.J. Barner going to the Seahawks, I have zero interest in Barner going to the Seahawks because Noah Fant's there for multiple years. Good luck. That just sounds like just a muck situation. What about Eric All with the Bengals? Is there a pathway for him where you're excited to see him possibly be an impact fantasy asset?
I don't know. I don't mind the landing spot. I don't particularly care for the tight end myself. This is one where the landing spot kind of maybe made him someone. If I've got extra taxi squad spots, maybe he suddenly finds his way onto a taxi squad for me, but this one doesn't do much for me. So far, this is the least impressive of all the ones we've talked about. I'm not huge on the player. The landing spot's okay, but they've had, 1 year of a fantasy relevant tight end, and other than that, it's just been us chasing guys. So I don't know. I'm not really in on this one.
Yeah, I think he's probably just going to burn people, to tell you the truth. And then there's like the third tight end that goes in this tier of players is Cade Stover. He goes to Houston. He's probably the long-term plan as the backup tight end. And then like in a couple of years, he gets a pathway. But if that's how it plays out for him, it's just like, it's not really that interesting. Like I liked him. I thought maybe he could get a better landing spot. Going to Houston, there's so many mouths to feed already. It's just difficult. Maybe he could be a touchdown guy in a couple of years, but I'm just gonna skip him for I'm not really have interest in drafting him. What about you?
I find that one interesting. I don't quite understand it. I don't know. Are they planning on moving on from Schultz, or I don't understand it. One of these, there's too many tight ends here. I don't understand why they would make this pick. It's in the end, I'm not really in on it. I can tell you that. I don't know. It's not a pick I want. It's confusing. I like Schultz. I like Schultz a little less now. I don't really care for Stover. I'm out on this one as well.
Yeah, I don't. The way because he signed a contract this offseason. It's 3 years, $36 million, right? He's got dead cap hits of 23 and 16 million. So he's not going anywhere for 2 years at a minimum. And if that's the case, it's like Cade Stover's a project guy. He's a guy who has natural talent, and he could be. I think they're going to probably have him play some blocking on the team. Is more than likely it happens. So, yeah, I'm with you. It just seems like he's kind of just stuck, which sucks for him. But that's how it goes sometimes with some of the guys we like in that situation. All right, now let's talk about a guy I know we were pretty high on, and he goes to like a fantastic offense. That's Jalen Wright with the Dolphins. How high is he going to claim in your rankings? Because there's not many more better landing spots for Jalen Wright, personally. I don't think so.
We view this entirely opposite. He's the first on the "you're dead to me" list. I'm out. There's too much talent here. There's too much speed. No, I'm out. He needed to go to a spot where he was the only speed guy. He's Devon. My comp for him was Devon Achane. He's Devon Achane, except not as good. So I don't like this at all. He's going to continue to be high up in drafts, and I'm just not going to pay what the cost is for him. Yeah, no, I'm out on this. I'm out.
I'm going to assume you have Bucky Irving higher than him because he went a few picks later, going to Tampa Bay, or Will Shipley going to the Eagles. Do either of those guys, like 83 of those running backs, have interest to you?
Irving, Shipley, Davis. Davis might be the hammer in Buffalo. Yep. Shipley, no. Irving might also be but I don't know. If they want to make Rashad White the pass catcher, Bucky doesn't really project to be the 3-down grinder, does he? It's not really his skill set. No.
He's a better rusher, but like he's not going to get the goal line work, and I think that's the biggest problem for him because Rashad White's a better pass catcher too. So it's like, good luck, man. Like that seems difficult for him.
I think round 4 killed the running back market for rookies. There's we've got: Wright, Irving, Shipley, Davis, Garendo, and Braylon Allen. I don't like a single one of those landing spots. They're either buried by immense talent, or they're buried behind someone who plays the same style as that. I don't like any of the round 4 running backs. They are. If there's a Kyron Williams this year, it's not in round 4.
It's later. I'd agree with that. Yeah. The way I'm looking at Jalen Wright is he's the guy that's going to take over the motion role after this year, but it's going to be rough in year 1 because he's the most touches in the season he's had per game is 13. Devon Achane in 2022 had 23.2 in college. Like Devon Achane has proven he can handle volume. Jalen Wright has never in his life proven he can handle volume. So it could be like a situation where he has to be super efficient. I mean, it's perfect offense for it, but like Mostert's still there. It's just going to be a cluster, and he's not going to take over the job from Achane. Achane's too good. So yeah, you're going to have to wait. He's going to be a guy you have to stash for a year. If you're comfortable doing that, sure. Like I have him as my pick 25, so he's like the 301 for me. But yeah, I'm not going to be super high on him. I just think
he's not dead to me. Like he's not undraftable to me. Yeah. He's just in the sense that where he's going to go in fantasy drafts, I'm not going to get him. I don't hate him. He's sure if he falls to me in the 3rd round, I'll take a shot at him. I'm not taking him where I was taking him as RB3 or something off the board. I'm not taking him at the beginning of the second anymore. So that's what I mean. When I mean he's dead to me, he's dead to me at cost. I'm just not paying it.
Yeah, same thing like Braylon Allen. We'll talk about they drafted multiple running backs, so it wasn't just Braylon Allen they brought in there. But you're behind Breece Hall. The only way you're getting on the field is injuries. Like Breece Hall is just too talented. So he was the guy I was going to let situation dictate where he lands, maybe out of interest. And yeah, to your point about Ray Davis, I think of all of these guys, he's the one that probably has the biggest role out of the gate in that offense to fight with. Like, I don't think he's going to take James Cook's job, but he's going to at least push for touches and be involved. And if an injury happens to Cook, and then you have something where you're looking with. So at least he's a certifiable handcuff, I think, at least in redraft. Like you could take him in the last round of redraft, hope it works out. One of those guys, at least, because there's not much competition outside of James Cook. The guy that I think is truly
running
dead
back landing spots are fucking ugly, man.
Yeah,
they all got ugly landing spots.
No shot. I don't even want to touch Grendo in San Francisco. Like, you're just absolutely buried, dude.
The only one who I like as a favorable landing spot was my sleeper, Vidal.
Yeah. But, like, did he go round 4? Yeah, I thought he went round 5, didn't he?
No, 6. He's way later. I was just looking down the board trying. That's how far I had to go down before I found a rookie, a running back whose landing spot I liked.
I was like, did he go way earlier than I remember?
No, 6th round. First pick of the 6th round. Or first offensive player in the 6th round.
No, you're good. The last 2 guys are Jared Wally, the tight end that went to the Chiefs. He's up there. There's another. I guess just the situation. You need someone to take the job from Kelsey. I don't know. Maybe it happens in a couple of years. I just think it's kind of just exciting. And then Jacob Cowing, who's a guy I liked a lot. But going to San Francisco, they already took Pearsall. They have all the wide receivers. He's basically going to be a punt returner for them. That's the way I view it. He's not getting out of the field. So as fun as his profile looked, it's just like that's just long-term situation maybe. But there's just nothing there for me, unfortunately. So sorry, Cowing. I just, I got to pull one out for my boy Cowing.
Yeah, Cowing definitely was one of the dead to me guys. I looked and I said, oh, that's not a terrible landing spot if they move on from Ayuk or Debo. But then they drafted Pearsall in the first round, and now they have to move on from both of them. Yeah. So he's dead to me. Who was Wiley?
Yeah, that's
Wiley is someone where if I'm not drafting him, but in a year or towards the end of the year, if I'm looking to start stashing players, I don't mind stashing him because I think when Kelsey retires, I think he has some potential and he could be the next guy. I don't mind Wiley. It's a long-term play. It's someone leave him on waivers and you're going to be able to get him before he pops off. But keep him on your watch list. And the second you think, there's signs that it may be his time may be nearing, then add him, but not for now.
Yeah, I think if you want to, like you talk about stashing players in Dynasty, he's a guy you could stash if you really want to. But yeah, I think more than likely you could probably pick him up on waivers or whatever you want. Let's jump to round 5.
Sure.
Let's see how these picks went. The first guy that goes, Anthony Gold, the wide receiver out of Oregon State. He's another slot guy, so I don't like that fit with the Colts because you're playing behind Josh Downs theoretically. I think he's another basically a special teams guy is the way it looks for him. He had a little upside, but overall, just not a guy I'm having interest in. Any interest for Gold for you going to the Colts?
No, he was already dead to me. This just confirmed it. He's a slot guy who went to a team that already has a slot guy that's young and better than him. So no, I'm good. I am good. I'm out.
All right, let's talk about SMA going to the Broncos. I think there's a pathway for him. I don't know how promising it is, but I was kind of curious why they took him. They have Javonte. Maybe they view SMA as a long-term guy, and then they also have Jaleel McLaughlin, but
maybe they don't view Javonte as the long-term guy. Out of the running backs, I know he didn't have a great combine. He made up for it at the pro day a bit. This is probably going to – I haven't done my rankings update here for after the draft, but I'm going to imagine Estime might be my biggest riser of the running backs. I don't mind this landing spot. This fits in. Even if they do keep Javonte, I was never a big believer in Jaleel McLaughlin, and we know Sean Payton loves his 2 running back systems. I don't even know who else they've got there still in Denver, but I think there's a pathway to Estime being, the guy this year or having some form of upside. So, yeah, I don't mind this one, actually. This is probably the first landing spot for a running back on day 3 where I think it helped him instead of hurt him, but I could just
I put him one spot below Troy Franklin in my ranking. So it's Ray Davis, Troy Franklin, and then Audric Estime there, that tier 6. To your point, I think there is a potential for him to carve out a bigger role. And if there's an injury to Javonte, like I think they view him as a guy that can take a lot of that work. And like we like Jaleel McLaughlin, but he's just really small. So I don't think they're ever going to give him a ton of work. So I think he's a guy that you can actually feed the work to. So that one's definitely interesting. Rattler to the Saints. Does that like tickle your fancy at all, or you're just kind of just like, no, thank you?
In the sense that, like for a dynasty, he's someone I'm stashing. He's this year's version of Hendon Hooker for me, where I'm going to stash him late and hope that eventually, how long are we going to continue with this Derek Carr experience here before I almost called him David Carr, before they just move on and this turns into a rebuild? I don't mind this one, actually. I will have some shares of Rattler on teams where I have, some Geno and other guys that are going to be moving on at some point, and I want to stash a quarterback and just pray he hits. I don't hate this one. This is a long-term play. It's the same as, who are we talking about? What was the tight end before? Anyways, there was another. Yeah. This is another one where I don't mind it in the long-term sense of this is a taxi squad stash guy, so I don't mind him on a taxi squad. Most of these guys are not going to be drafted in any redraft league, so let's just assume. Yeah.
Strictly, like I think we're basically just talking about dynasty guys at this point because we're getting late in the 5th round. With Aeneas Smith, the wide receiver at Texas A&M, going to the Eagles, and Jamari Thrash, the wide receiver at Louisville, going to the Cleveland Browns. Do you see either one of them being able to carve out any semblance of a role on the offenses?
That's interesting for Smith because I don't even know if he plays this year. He had that broken foot or whatever the hell it was, some kind of issue with his foot at the combine that they found. They drafted him anyways. 2 receivers on big-time contracts, so I don't see Smith or Thrash, either of them getting any significant playing time. This is probably special teamers and practice squad guys here. I'm probably out on both of these guys.
Yep, I'm on the same way as you. As unfortunate as it is, some of these landing spots can really impede potential careers. So for those 2 guys, it's basically just sure, if you want to take a 5th round on them, go for it because those picks are worthless. But outside of that, don't really have much interest to me. We go down to the next. All right, so Rasheen Ali, the running back from Baltimore, the running back out of Marshall, going to Baltimore, and then Tyrone Tracy, the running back out of Purdue, going to the Giants. Who do you prefer more out of those? Or we can throw Keelan Robinson going to the Jaguars as well because there's 3 running backs in a row. Who's the guy that stands out of that group of running backs for you?
It's Ali. I don't think any of them are great long-term stashes, but if you're going to tell me I have to pick one, I'm going to pick the guy on the team known for burning through running backs, and I'm just going to assume that at some point I get a game or 2 out of Rasheen Ali, but Tracy, I don't mind as a long-term play. It's not like he's the heir apparent to, although I guess who do they have? They have nobody in front of him in New York.
Just Singletary, yeah. It's just Devin Singletary. Yeah. So I think that one interests me because of that.
I don't know if it interests me because, I get that there's opportunity. I just don't know if he's better than Singletary. So I guess, I'll retract that. I forgot that there's absolutely no one there. It might be him based on opportunity, but I think I like Ali better. For me, Robinson's the one who doesn't factor into the equation at all. So
I think they're just frustrated with the backup they have there. Why am I blanking on the backup running back?
I thought Bigsby was good though. I don't know.
No, he was real bad last year. They were not happy with him because they had. There's another guy that had. They were when Etienne got hurt for a little bit. They were playing somebody else over Bigsby because of how frustrated they were with Bigsby. We liked Bigsby coming out, but dude, he just face planted last year. So I think he's competition, and he's gonna be special teams. But I think he's competition for the backup job. Just take another dart, see if it works out in year 2. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe Bigsby shows up in year 2. But yeah, I think we talk about these guys. Tracy has the easiest pathway by far. Ali, because of that running back in Baltimore, we talk about, there's no one really behind Derrick Henry because why am I blanking on names right now? The guy we liked, who was really small, really fast.
Spears?
No, in Baltimore.
Oh, Baltimore. Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, Keaton Mitchell. We don't know when he's coming back. So, the backup in Baltimore could be Ali. I think he's good enough to earn a backup role. So there's potential there, but you're not taking Derrick Henry's job. Like Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. So if we want to shoot the moon of any of these guys, I think it's Tracy. But yeah, I think it's just more muddy backfield between all these guys, unfortunately.
Tyler in the chat is right, though. Kamani Vidal's the stash you want.
Yes, 100%.
He was my sleeper to begin with. So this is what we call confirmation bias.
Yes, right. It's the guy that we talked about earlier. Like, I completely agree. Kamani Vidal. Yeah, and that's Tyler nailed it. It was DeAndre Johnson. Yeah, it's like, no thank you on some of those guys. Let's go down a little bit here. Bub means going to the Saints. Like, I mean, sure, I guess. Another kind of open wide receiver room outside of Olave. You could take a dart on him. He's very fast. He will play down the field. He can do things for you. And then there's the other backup for Braylon Allen. I don't know why the Jets keep stashing these running backs. Isaiah Davis, who's a guy out of a small school that we liked. But, I mean, you're going to play behind Breece Hall. You're not getting anywhere.
I mean, Anaconda, and there's somebody else they drafted. Oh, Braylon Allen.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just too many dead bodies there in New York, unfortunately.
I looked at that one and I said, oh, that's not a terrible landing spot. He won't beat out Breece Hall, but he could beat out Anaconda. Oh, but then he also has to beat out Braylon Allen. So, yeah, I don't know if they're just collecting running backs. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
And he's the guy with the least draft capital of all of them. It's like, all right, man, I wish you the best of luck. I don't know. Like maybe he earns a backup role. And then as much as we don't want to wish injuries on any running back, if Breece Hall were ever to get injured, right? But there's a lot of steps in that process. And if you need that many steps in the process to work out in your favor, it's just like, no, man, no thanks. Yeah, 100% dollar. It goes in and out sometimes. But yeah, let's go down to the next rounds because we are cruising through these. All right.
Actually, we did skip one there.
Who did we skip?
It wasn't a running back. It was Jordan Travis going to the Jets, which I get. His injury is why he fell. But if Rodgers goes next year, I think he could have a chance at being a starter there. I don't think he's a top 12 quarterback, but I think he might have had first-round potential had he not been injured this year. So I don't know. I think my sleeper quarterback in this class is Jordan Travis. I don't mind him.
Do you think he has enough arm talent to be a starter in the NFL?
I don't think a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFL have enough arm talent to be in the NFL. I don't think half the quarterbacks drafted this weekend had enough arm talent to be in the NFL. But I don't know. At this point, I don't think he's any worse than Rodgers is.
Right. They do need a backup in that room because we saw how bad the Jets situation was without Rodgers. It was just a disaster. So I don't mind them taking a dart throw, see if they can get something out of Travis. And then in a year or two, like when Rodgers leaves, then maybe you have the guy where you don't spend the 8th overall pick on the guy you're building for years. You spend a late 5th round pick. It makes a lot more sense. Obviously, he's not as talented as Penix, but there's something there. So maybe he's the guy you keep an eye on, and if like another player we talk about stashing, that's the ideal like quarterback you stash because if he gets any type of hype, right, and then that value just skyrockets up.
Why would they be drafting a quarterback at 8? Is Michael Penix Jr. in that draft too?
I guess he is, yeah, right?
Fucking idiots.
That one still just makes no sense. I was like, okay, all right, man. What are we doing here, folks?
This is what happens if you let a fantasy football manager draft your NFL franchise. I'm telling you, just brutal.
Yeah, that's rough. All right, so Kamani Vidal is your guy. He goes to the Chargers. That's a fantastic landing spot. Let's talk about it. Just hype up your guy Vidal and why you were so high on him in the process.
He's really, really, really fast, and he's going to. I think Jim Harbaugh wanted Blake Corum but couldn't get him. So I think Vidal is kind of faster Blake Corum, and there's really no one like you're telling me it's going to be. I'm almost blanked on the name. Was it Gus Edwards there? That's who he's got to beat out. Like Gus is all right, but I'll take the really fast rookie over the Dobbins if he's even healthy. Yeah. Dobbins is a free agent still, isn't he?
No, he signed with the Chargers.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I'm not convinced he's all that healthy. So just give me the really fast rookie. I would have loved to have seen Jalen Wright here. I think this would have been a good spot. That
would have been nice. But yeah, it's literally like Elijah Dotson is the other running back on this roster. And it's like, dude, Elijah Dotson ain't it. So there's definitely a pathway. And if like Dobbins is nowhere near the player he was because of a significant injury, right? Like there is something there where I'm fine like reaching for Vidal in the 3rd round. Like I don't think a lot of people know about him enough just because he comes from a really small school. So I think you can get him a little bit later. I'm trying to figure out how him in my rankings, but it's pretty high. I need to look and so yeah, I have him in that same range with little Shipley guys. I have him like right at 37, right behind Javon Baker, and the end of tier 6 going in tier 7. I think there is theoretical.
You have him at 36 in your rookie rankings?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have him a lot higher than that.
Yeah, he's in that same tier. I might move him up higher. It's just like I don't know, man. We'll see. But yeah, I have Bucky Irving in the same tier. Who is my sleeper? Let me see. Where's Bucky Irving? Yeah, Bucky Irving is pick. Where is he? 33, I think. So yeah, the same tier. Those guys. I like both those guys. That they're good enough to carve out roles in the offense and potentially get bigger role impact. So yeah, I like that landing spot a lot for him. It's probably one of the better landing spots we saw from day 3 guy, if not one of the best. All right, so there's some wide receivers here. We got Johnny Wilson finally went. Seemed like he was waiting forever. He goes to the Eagles. Another guy going to a situation that kind of sucks. So, unfortunately for Wilson, unless he's a tight end, I don't see much for him.
I think he's a tight end.
Yeah. I think the Malik Washington landing spot to the Dolphins is way more interesting because they need a slot wide receiver, and that's what Malik Washington does. So, I think he got of these wide receivers in this tier, and then we have Jaquan Jackson going to the Titans, which good luck, Jaquan Jackson. That's a tough landing spot to get through. I think Malik Washington's the guy that gets the best landing spot to a situation where he can step in year 1 and be the slot guy. And I think that's actually really interesting for him. So are you in lockstep with me on that one, or do you prefer any of the other wide receivers in that range?
I don't want any of them. I think I prefer Jackson. I think I don't want either of them. Like, if I'm going to take shots on day 3 wide receivers, they're not on guys who look to be at best the number 3 target on their team. Like, I guess theoretically Jackson has a better shot of being the number 2 because the guys in front of him are old as shit. But like, I don't want Malik Washington because even if he is the slot receiver, it's behind Hill and it's behind Waddle with Tua at quarterback. So, yeah. When I'm looking for the Puka Nakua, like everyone's doing here, and the third, like the day 3, it's not a guy who's going to be the 4th pass catcher on his team. I'm looking for opportunity. At this point, that's all that matters to me on day 3. I don't even so much care about talent anymore. It's just whoever has the opportunity, and it's about finding a pathway into touches here, or receptions in this case.
So then, as far as Casey Washington going to the Falcons, which, like, I don't even know if we covered him, to tell you the truth.
We did not. And yet, having said that, I have no idea who he is, but I still like him better than Malik Washington or Jaquan Jackson because he could conceivably be the 2nd wide receiver on this team because despite the fact that I have no idea who Casey Washington is, I have no idea who the 2nd receiver on the Falcons is.
Yeah, it's Darnell Mooney probably. And then they got the whole Kyle Pitts thing, who's like a wide receiver, so it's kind of ugly in the situation, and then Cousins, whatever. But, I mean, yeah, it's definitely interesting, right? I just think as far as talent goes, like, I think Malik Washington is actually a good, like, he has promise. I wouldn't say good, but he has promise. I don't know a damn thing about Casey Washington, so I'm going to have to dig into him to check him out a little bit more because – and then we get to Juan Palmer going to the Cardinals. We talk about situations like he could be the 3rd option because that wide receiver room, I mean, outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., they have Trey McBride. They don't have nothing else, man. Like, that's a late round shot. Like, you're talking about guys finding roles. I think that one's interesting, at least. I need to dig more about him, but overall, I don't know enough about him to talk about him. And then Joe Milton, Patriots taking another swing at quarterback. Hopefully they can developmental to Kellen.
Okay. Hear me out. Yeah. Hear me out. That's my sleeper at quarterback.
Joe Milton?
Yeah. What if Drake May isn't any good? I get it. They're not going to replace him in year 1, but, you know, I think it's possible that Joe Milton might be the better of the 2 quarterbacks, but I'm the low on Drake May guy, so that could
this
just
is
be
you're basically talking about the Purdy corollary, right? Where gets injured year 1. Well, he sits year 1. Year 2, the starting quarterback, so Drake May would have to sit. In comes Joe Milton, and he lights the world on fire, right? Like, that's the whole pathway to having it happen. Like, there's definitely in this range of picks, like, I'm fine throwing darts on quarterbacks because these guys go so late. There's upside with the quarterback. There's only 32 starting jobs, right? So, and like, worst case, he sits for a few years. Maybe he gets traded, and then there's a starting job there. Like, I think there's a better pathway for him than a lot of these guys. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't have him hot ranked high, but I'll take a shot on him for sure.
But a guy with his arm strength is always going to get a shot somewhere, and he's going to be undrafted in rookie drafts. So if I can stash him on a taxi squad, I'll take a shot at him. I don't think he's terrible.
Depends on the taxi squad, how many spots I have. But yeah, this is kind of what I did last year with the quarterbacks, and they did not pan out. The guy for Arizona, like Clayton Tune, like he got a shot to play right, and then you sell him for a 3rd round pick, and you're like success. So like even worst case, if Drake May suffers a couple week injury, Joe Milton steps in, you could trade him for that way. So like there is a theoretically upside just by trading them away too. So I'm on board with that too.
I made good profit flipping Clayton Tune last year.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, he was actually fantasy relevant there was a little bit of time where he looked like he could be the potential starter for the time, and I flipped him quick. Forget that. That's why you buy day 3 players. This is why I have so many day 3 draft picks, because the second they get the preseason hype, sell.
Yes, 100%. All right, so Jawar Jordan going to the Texans. There's like something there. And then I will say Dylan Lobby going to the Raiders. Another situation where you can carve out a role. So are you more interested in Lobby going to the Raiders being like the pass catching back, or are you more interested in Jordan going to the Texans, potentially behind Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon gets in your situation like that.
Give me Jordan to the Texans. Having said that, I don't mind either, but I really looked when I looked at first glance, I really liked Jordan, the opportunity there. I think he's got some talent. That's a decent landing spot. At least another guy. Like I said, most of these guys, they're all stashes. So this is another guy I think could be a worthwhile stash. Lobby could also be Lobby, whatever the hell his name is. He could also be a worthwhile stash, but I don't think he has. He has, who am I blanking out? James White appeal here, where he's just he's gonna come in and he's gonna catch you some passes, but he doesn't really have any value. Like James White's that guy where he went in the 9th round of PPR and undrafted in every other format. That's gonna be what he is, where he'll come in and he could be useful in your full PPR formats, but that's about it.
For sure, because I don't trust Zamir White as a pass catcher. We saw what Alexander Madison was last year, not a capable pass catcher. I do wonder about Jordan is just what are they doing with Pierce as the backup role, and Houston because he's still on the roster. So if they trade him, I think that magically opens up a role for him, because it's like Dario Muwambe is the other running back. I don't know why I can't say his name.
Dario Agumbawale.
Agumbawale, there you go. Thank you. My brain is not working today. And then it's the other running back is JJ Taylor, who is a pass catching back who really people had hype for in New England, but it just never worked out for him. So there's not much competition for the backup job. So if Dameon Pierce gets injured or he gets traded, that opens up the door for him magically to be the 2 in the offense. So I like that. But I like Lob as basically a PPR guy for sure.
I don't think we should assume Dameon Pierce is better than him.
No, not in that current team. He's the awful thing. He's like the worst running back for that team. Right?
But he was he was a plotter in college. That's what he was. He was a high volume plotter, run it up the middle. That's what he's
the guy that he's the tackle breaker that team always loved because he's always breaking tackles, right? But the reason he's breaking all those tackles because he's not breaking all the runs, right? So it's like the efficiency's there, but he's got the speed. So
you know what? It's easy to break a lot of tackles when you can't outrun anyone.
Right. All right, so we got a couple wide receivers that way here later in round 6. We got Jordan Whittingham, who goes to the Rams. And then I think Ryan Flournoy, the guy out of Southeastern Missouri State, to the Cowboys is a lot more interesting because Brandon Cooks is getting older and there is not much competition. Like that wide receiver room is not good. So I think he could find himself into like working some slot work out of year 1 at least. I don't know about Whittingham and how that's going to work for him because they have a pretty good wide receiver room there. Do either one of these guys interest you?
I'm not interested in either of these guys, but as I look at the board here, the more interesting thing for me is did the Broncos or did the Bengals draft a second tight end here, Tanner McLaughlin?
Yeah.
They drafted Eric Hall, didn't they?
Yep, they did.
Well, that should tell you how they feel about Eric Hall.
They're like, hey, this is kind of what the Jets did with the running backs. They're like, why take one when we can get multiple shots? Maybe one of these guys is good. So, and McLaughlin did show some promise in Arizona. So, I don't know, man. Good.
I don't have no interest on any of the other guys in this round. Flournoy, whatever the hell his name is. I don't know. If he gets, I don't know if there's any hype out of training camp about him. He's a good guy to buy. and hope that they hype him up as the wide receiver 2 in Dallas during training camp and then sell him immediately. I have
Who
no
was
hope in
that
him.
a few years ago? There's a few, like a year, around 3 pick, like 2 years ago.
Tolbert.
Yes,
Tolbert.
that's the exact guy. Jalen Tolbert. Yeah, he got so much hype, and he didn't do a damn thing. So if he gets any type of hype like that, you could immediately profit because
Tolbert's still on the roster.
Is he? I thought he was like the Chargers now.
No, I don't know. Unless he was traded this offseason. He's still on the roster last I checked.
That's just nuts. All right. So let's go to round 7 here. Brendan Rice goes to the Chargers. I'm not really a big fan of Rice, but that Chargers wide receiver room, I know they added Lyle McConkey. Still just kind of just like it's not great unless you're a big fan of QJ. So there's something there. They do need somebody to play the X role in the offense because QJ is not capable of it. You really don't want Ladd doing it, so that's why they get Rice late. So maybe there's something there, but I don't know. That doesn't really interest me too much. How about you?
I will take some shots on him late. I don't mind it. Like you said, it's either going to be him or QJ who plays the late round X or the X role out of these receivers. So I don't know. I don't hate it. I'm not big on Brandon Rice, but I will have a few late dart throws on him just because I'm not all that high on Quentin Johnson anymore either. So why not?
Sure. All right, let's talk about Jakeem Bell, a guy who many expected to go a lot earlier. He goes to the Patriots in round 7. Is there anything you like about Jakeem Bell going to the Patriots? Because they have Drake May. You know, he could possibly carve out a role in like a year or two being the check down guy for him. Is there anything you like there?
No.
Yeah.
Not really. Maybe he gets the Hunter Henry role, but no. I don't have any faith in this offense. Yeah, no. No, I'm good. I'm good.
We did not cover Devon Vele, so I don't know a damn thing about him. But he's a wide receiver. He goes to the Broncos, 7th round. Let's pull this up real quick. See what it says.
This is what I know who he is, but this is what I was gonna say. Every year, it seems like every year for the last 4 years, Denver drafts a wide receiver that no one's ever fucking heard of, and he never takes the field. They did this. I don't even remember the name. Every year they draft someone, and it's like, who the fuck is that? And it's always some receiver nobody's ever heard of.
He's 26 years old. I just saw that. 26. He took a 2-year. Yeah, we're just going to skip that. I was like, hey, congrats on making an NFL roster, buddy, but no thanks. The Dolphins took another guy that they could try to put in the slot, Taj Washington. Same situation. He's around 7 picks, so it's even harder for him. So, good luck. Yeah, it'd be real tough, man. Michael Pratt's the Packers, the quarterback. What do you think about that situation?
I think I'd like that landing spot a lot better 3 years ago when he was the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers. Now you're going to have to draft him hoping that the relatively young Jordan Love is a complete flop, which I don't think he is. I think Michael Pratt is going to end up somewhere else looking for a chance to start. I think he has a chance to be a starter. This landing spot killed any hope I had for him.
Yeah, he needs to get traded. So maybe that happens. Some team has interest or whatever. Devin Culp, the speedster out of Washington. They're going to the Buccaneers. He's got to get over, take the job from K-Dot and those other guys. This is them just taking a dart on a guy who's athletic, but his production profile is pretty poor. So I don't see much pathway there for Baker. But, maybe it's a long-term developmental guy you want to stash for years. Have at it. But theoretically, I just don't think a guy who really didn't produce in college is going to be able to produce for them. So I don't have much interest in him.
Me neither. Then we have another receiver to the Chargers, Cornelius Johnson. They're just going to keep stockpiling him here till one of them hits.
Hey, you got to keep throwing darts. Hopefully, you get one of these guys to work. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. He's the last skill position player that goes.
What they need to do is when they're on the clock in the second round, they need to call Pittsburgh and say, "What receiver would you guys take here?" And then they need to draft that receiver. Oh, okay, Jesse's gone. I didn't even see that. So that concludes the last of the drafted players. Well, I guess we'll run through a few notable free agent signings. Austin Reed went to Chicago. That one's interesting. I guess that's just a partner here to team up with Caleb Williams. Keaton Slovis went to Indy. Sam Hartman, the Commanders. That's a backup. I thought he had potential, but he looked terrible at the combine. Blake Watson went unsigned. He signed with Denver. That's an interesting one. Who Who did they sign earlier? I forgot who it was already.
The
Who did they sign? Who did they draft? Who was the running back they drafted? Estime. So Estime and Watson, that's interesting because I liked both of them. I think I liked Watson more than Estime.
Yeah, like I like Watson too. Like it's clear the NFL thought lower of him than we had hoped for because he didn't get a combine invite, and then he just doesn't even get drafted, right? Which that works out in his favor. There's a path there, so you know what I'm saying. Like if you want to pick him up after the draft goes, go for it, or take him in the 5th round. Absolutely, I'm on board with that. I got no problem with that situation.
Other than that, we got Frank Gore's son going to Buffalo. Nothing really there. Dylan Johnson went to Tennessee. Amani Bailey and Carson Steele both go to KC. So KC's just going to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Anybody of interest there to you out of the KC backfield? The 19 guys they have?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like is what it is. I think it's clearly that they trust Pacheco, and he's going to have that role. So Pacheco's really the only guy that interests me. I will say the Raiders signed 2 UDFAs, so keep those guys. Just like pay attention to Carson Steele and Amani Bailey. Like they're guys to watch. I wouldn't really pay attention, like invest in them, but keep an eye on it. If we hear some stuff in the offseason, then maybe pick them up. But yeah, it's really hard for any UDFA to carve out much of a role. So like I just mainly just target running backs, because we cycle through them so much. So those are the guys, the UDFAs that I will get and look for. And then if they're available after draft, like I'll pick a couple of those guys up.
I think that's all from me, unless you have anything else. I've gone through my notes here, 800 of them, and that's pretty much anyone I had that was relevant.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap for us on the 2024 NFL draft. It was a fun one and kind of peters out toward the end, but a lot of big names, even in like we talk about with these day 4, like day 3 guys, there's still guys that find potential roles. So you want to shoot the ceiling shot with a few of them, I'm totally on board with that. But yeah, that was a good time. And then we're not going to do our mock draft tonight, but we are going to be pushing more content out coming out this entire week as we have more articles and things coming out. Check out our website. Visit all of our websites, YouTube, see us on TikTok, on Twitter. We'll be there. Put all this stuff out all the offseason. And this is the dynasty time of grind where rookie drafts are happening. We'll be putting more of those out, and then we'll transition to other stuff. So yeah, for Aaron and myself, thank you all for joining us this week. And yeah, we'll look forward and we'll talk to you guys later.